The Bench Beneath the Elm Tree. Chapter 1, The First Light. The bench I rest upon is not just a piece of wood and iron nestled beneath the elm tree. I have sat here longer than the grass has grown beneath me. My planks, softened by rain and time, have held the weight of countless lives. I remember them all, not by names, but by their presence, their rhythm, their quiet moments offered to me. The mornings always begin the same. The soft rustle of leaves overhead. The golden touch of light weaving through the branches. Birds with their gentle murmurs, as if still deciding what kind of song the day requires. And then, the first steps. Always someone with soft shoes and a slower gait. There was a woman, long ago it seems, who came each morning at first light. She would brush off a few stray leaves from my seat and sit with both hands in her lap, perfectly still. She smelled of lavender and something older, maybe cedarwood or time itself. She never looked around, not at the birds nor the trees. Her eyes remained closed. I often wondered what world she saw in that stillness. She would stay until the sun cleared the treetops, then rise with grace and walk away as if waking from a gentle dream. I learned to wait for her. Her presence brought a stillness that made even the wind slow down. I miss her. But I do not long for things in the way people do. I simply remember. The bench across from me is newer, but it has not seen as much. It's shaded differently, in a patch where light only falls for a few hours. Fewer choose it. Some of the younger ones prefer it because it's closer to the playground. But they don't sit for long. Their visits are bursts of motion, of laughter and cries, and then they're gone, like breezes through tall grass. But here, on this seat under the elm, time stretches like soft fabric. People slow down when they come to me. They become softer, more thoughtful. Their footsteps are quieter when they approach, and even their breathing changes, deeper, as if the very air here is thicker with memory. There was a boy, not so long ago, who came every afternoon after school. His shoes were always scuffed, and he would kick at the dust before sitting. He carried a notebook. I remember the way he scribbled in it, page after page, with the kind of focus only young hearts can manage. Sometimes, he spoke aloud. Bits of stories, whispered as if afraid they might vanish. Once, he stopped and said, "This is where the hero finds the treasure," and then looked around, eyes wide as if expecting the ground itself to offer up secrets. He stopped coming after a while. Perhaps he grew older. Perhaps he found a different bench, or no bench at all. But I can still hear the scratch of his pen, the way he tapped the tip against his lips when thinking. That sound lingers. As the sun climbs, the park begins to hum. The gardener passes by, humming a tune without lyrics. He always tips his cap at me, though I never respond. I've never spoken, not in the way people understand. My voice is quieter. It hums in the back of their minds, in the sighs they release when they sit, in the forgotten dreams that rise to the surface when they stay long enough. Some sit and say nothing. Just silence. And yet, they share so much. One winter, a man in a long coat came every day with a paper bag. He would sit beside me, unwrap his sandwich, and place half on the bench beside him. He never ate that half. Just let it sit there. Birds never took it. Squirrels stayed away. And when he finished his own, he would wrap the other half again and place it gently on the bench, as though saving it for someone he expected but never saw. The season turned, and one day he stopped coming. The bag never came again. But even now, when it rains, I sometimes feel the weight of that paper bag, imagined, perhaps, but real enough for me. I have seen tears dropped onto my wood, disappearing without stain. I have heard laughter that echoed against the trees. I've felt small feet climb onto me, pressing with joy, and weary hands rest heavy, pressing with sorrow. I remember a pair of lovers who carved their initials into my edge. At first, I was unsure how to feel about it. Was it a wound or a gift? But over time, I began to think of it as a mark of remembrance, a wish to stay even when they could not. They visited often, whispered secrets, held hands. One day, only one of them came, sat silently, ran fingers over the carving, then stood and left without looking back. The trees know I remember. They sometimes rustle their leaves in a way that matches my thoughts. The wind knows too. It passes differently here. Slower. More curious. As if stopping to listen. I do not dream, but if I did, my dreams would be filled with echoes. Not voices, but feelings. A mother's quiet song. A child's question. The sigh of someone who stayed just a little longer than they meant to. Sometimes people sit with their backs against me, facing away from the path. These are the ones who come not to watch, but to feel. To be wrapped in stillness. I hold them gently. Not with arms, but with presence. With memory. The sun has moved again. Shadows stretch longer across the path. The gardener is gone. The birds are quieter now. I wait for the next visitor. Someone new. Someone who might stay long enough to share something they do not say aloud. I never ask for anything. I am simply here. Always. The elm tree creaks above me. The day continues, slowly, quietly, and I remain, ready to listen, always listening. Chapter 2, Rain on Old Wood. There's a certain quiet that comes before the rain, a kind of breath the world seems to take before letting go. I feel it in the way the wind hushes. I sense it in the heavy scent of soil rising from beneath the grass. The elm tree, my oldest companion, holds its limbs still as if bracing for something soft and sacred. The first drop always lands on me with purpose. Not loud, not startling, just a tap. Like a fingertip reaching out from the sky. Then another. And another. Until the rhythm becomes steady, like the soft patter of footsteps on a distant path. I welcome the rain. I have no need to stay dry. Moisture seeps into my grain and deepens the grooves of my years. When it rains, the park empties. The voices fade, and silence folds around me like a blanket. It is in these moments that the memories come back stronger. They ride the rain down from the leaves above, trickling into the corners of my frame where old stories like to rest. There was a man who only visited me on rainy days. I do not know his name, but I knew his coat, long, always damp at the edges, smelling faintly of tobacco and old paper. He never used an umbrella. Instead, he let the rain soak him, dripping from his eyebrows, sliding down the curve of his nose. He would sit heavily, his entire body folding inward like a book closing. In his hands, always a photograph. Worn, the corners bent. He never looked at it for long. Just enough to remember. He would whisper sometimes, not to me, but to the photograph. Sometimes he wept, but never loudly. More often, he just sat, still as the air, his breath shallow. One day, he left the photo on my seat, tucked between the slats, as if offering it to me. A woman in a pale dress, laughing into the wind. Her eyes were half closed, caught in mid-laughter. I held that photograph for weeks. The rain didn't ruin it, it merely softened it, like everything else time touches. Eventually, a young girl with curious eyes and muddy boots found it. She sat beside me, traced the faded image with her fingertip, and tucked it into her coat. I never saw it again. But somehow, I felt that the memory had moved on to a new keeper. And that felt right. When the rain falls steadily, the colors of the park shift. Greens become deeper, browns richer. Even the air thickens with the scent of life growing. I can feel it, this quiet growth. Roots stretching below, leaves unfurling above. Time seems to slow even more when wet. People rush elsewhere, but not the few who come to me. A poet used to visit me on such days. She carried a satchel full of soggy notebooks, and her hair frizzed at the edges. She called me her thinking place. Sometimes, she read aloud to me, words swirling around us like mist. One afternoon, she wrote something while crying quietly under her breath. Her words were slow and tender. She said, "Even the sky remembers." I remember that line, not because of the words themselves, but because of the silence that followed. As if she had given something away. Something precious. I've learned that sorrow doesn't always arrive loudly. Often, it comes like rain, gentle, consistent, and full of things unspoken. And yet, it isn't always sorrow that rain brings. There was a child, once, no more than 6 years old. She danced in the puddles before sitting beside me, her laughter ringing like chimes. Her dress clung to her, soaked through, and her boots squelched with each step. She spoke to me, as children do when they believe everything listens. She told me about her imaginary friend, a fox with blue eyes and a scarf made of stars. She said he only came out when the world turned silver from the rain. She even saved a spot beside her for him. I felt that, the warmth of her belief, the sincerity of her magic. And I imagine the fox, paws wet, curled at her side. I wonder if she still believes in him. I hope she does. The rain continues, and I feel the drops working their way into me, softening splinters and blurring the edges of the carvings people have left behind. Names, initials, small hearts pierced by arrows. Some markings fade quickly, others last. But even when they're gone, I still remember. A young man once carved only a date into my armrest. No name, no symbol. Just numbers. He stared at it for a long time, rain soaking his shoulders, lips slightly parted. Then he walked away. The next year, on the same date, he returned. He didn't sit. Just touched the carving with his fingers and left. He came every year for 5 years. Then never again. Still, the date lingers in my grain, invisible now to the eye, but perfectly clear to me. Sometimes I wonder how many stories I hold that even their tellers have forgotten. Rain brings reflection, and reflection brings presence. Those who visit me in storms are different. They don't come for comfort or clarity, they come to remember. To feel the heaviness lifted by the rhythm of falling drops. Once, a painter brought her canvas and sat beneath the elm with an umbrella tucked into her collar. She painted me, not with accuracy, but with softness. In her version, I was glowing, almost floating. The tree above me shimmered, and instead of a path, there were stars at my feet. I don't know if it was how she saw me, or how she wanted me to be. Either way, I was honored. She left the painting propped against me while she went to fetch tea from a cart nearby. A sudden wind tipped it forward, and rain kissed the surface. The colors ran. Not ruined, just changed. When she returned, she smiled. "Better this way," she said. "It looks like you're dreaming." I suppose I do dream, in a way. My dreams are not built from desires or fears. They are made of echoes. The rustle of skirts. The creak of tired shoes. The hush of lovers' secrets. The hush of rain. Today, it rains gently, persistently. No one has come to sit with me, but I do not mind. The elm speaks to me in leaf drips. The earth hums beneath. The sky watches. I have all the company I need. Chapter 3, A Bench for One Day Only. There are visitors who return time and again, whose habits I come to know, the way they always sit on the left side, or place a coffee on the armrest, or sigh before settling in. But once in a while, someone comes only once. A single meeting, never repeated. And yet, those are often the moments I carry closest. It was a day touched by gentle warmth, neither summer nor spring. The kind of afternoon where the sun doesn't press too hard, and the breeze arrives with the scent of bread from the nearby bakery. The park was full, yet peaceful, families meandering, lovers strolling hand in hand, pigeons bobbing with no particular destination in mind. That day, A man came to me as if he had chosen me long before I ever existed. He wasn't in a hurry. He walked slowly, eyes scanning every bench he passed. And when he reached me, he paused, not to check if I was empty, but as though recognizing an old friend. He sat with care, running his hand along my wooden slats, as if greeting something familiar. He brought no bag, no phone, not even a book. Only a folded piece of paper tucked into his coat pocket. For a while, he did nothing. Just breathed. His shoulders dropped slightly. His back curved gently. His shoes tapped lightly on the gravel, then stilled. He reached into his pocket and unfolded the paper. It was creased many times, as if it had been carried for years, waiting for this moment. He didn't read it aloud. But his eyes moved slowly across the words, and I felt the way the air thickened around him. Memory, I think, is the heaviest thing a person can carry. And in that moment, he held a weight beyond measure. Then, almost ceremoniously, he placed the paper on my seat, beside him, smoothed it down, and left it there. He sat back, closed his eyes, and tilted his face up to the canopy of branches above. The elm tree, too, seemed to lean closer, as if sheltering him. A single leaf drifted down and settled near his foot. After some time, he began to hum. Softly. A melody without words. One I had never heard before, but which felt like it had always belonged to this place. When he finally stood, he didn't take the paper. He looked at it, nodded once, and whispered something. I didn't hear the words, not as people hear them, but I felt their essence. Gratitude. Farewell. Peace. Then he walked away and never returned. The paper remained. I remember its texture, the way the edges curled slightly from the sun. Later, a breeze came and carried it away. Not all at once, but little by little. First, it lifted one corner. Then, like a careful hand, it tugged the whole page into motion. It floated into the air like a bird unsure of its wings, before finally disappearing into the hedges nearby. And that was that. A single afternoon. A single man. A single folded letter. Some might say such moments are small. But I do not measure moments by how long they last. I measure them by how deeply they echo. Another single-day visitor arrived on an early autumn morning. She was a child, perhaps 8 or 9, but walked with the poise of someone much older. Her dress was too big for her, likely passed down through generations. In her hands, a red balloon bobbed lazily, tied to her wrist with string that had seen better days. She didn't sit right away. First, she circled me 3 times, eyes scanning the carvings and creases in my wood. Then she placed both hands on the backrest and leaned in, as if trying to listen. Finally, she climbed up and sat cross-legged, feet tucked beneath her skirt. She spoke aloud, not to me, but to someone I couldn't see. I told you I'd find it, she said. You said it was just an old story. Then she nodded, as if someone had responded. She laughed, a short, triumphant sound, and began to share secrets. Her favorite ice cream flavor. The name of the cat she wanted. Her dream of becoming a kite flyer. Not just flying kites, she clarified, but being the person who teaches kites how to dance. I listened to every word. At one point, she whispered, "They say this bench grants wishes if you tell it everything." And then she fell silent, cupping her hands over her mouth, eyes wide with wonder. As if she'd said something forbidden. She untied the balloon from her wrist and let it go. Together, we watched it rise, higher and higher, until it disappeared beyond the leaves. She leaned back, sighed, and smiled. "I'll come back when I'm older," she said. But I've not seen her since. The days continue, of course. Some faces return, others vanish. Some carry flowers. Some carry burdens. Some carry both. And in the midst of all this, I remain, still and listening. A young man once stopped only long enough to write a name in chalk across my seat. One word, written quickly, like he feared he might change his mind. He stepped back, looked at it, and whispered, "I forgive you." Then he left. The chalk washed away with the evening rain. But that name, and that whisper, settled into me like dust in the grain. You see, I do not judge. I do not question. I only hold. Each visitor, whether for a moment or a season, adds something to me. A feeling. A rhythm. A hum that joins the quiet symphony I carry within. I do not forget, because forgetting would mean letting go. And I was built to hold on. The elm above me creaks again. A breeze flutters through, shaking loose a few golden leaves. Children laugh in the distance. A dog barks twice, then hushes. Somewhere beyond, a flute plays a wandering melody, and the wind carries it like a ribbon through the branches. Another day passes. Another someone may come. Even if only once. And I will be here, waiting. Chapter 4, Shadows in the Afternoon. Afternoons carry a different kind of stillness than mornings or nights. The sun leans lower, casting long shadows that stretch like quiet thoughts across the gravel paths. The light turns golden, thick with memory, as if the very air is remembering something. It is during these hours that the park slows. Children grow quieter. The breeze loses its playfulness. The world sighs, and I, too, become softer in presence, waiting with patient stillness for whoever might come. One particular afternoon, a man came who walked with the kind of quiet that only grief can teach. His steps were slow but deliberate. He wasn't old, no gray at his temples, no stoop in his posture, but he carried something that made the space around him heavier. He didn't sit at first. He simply stood in front of me, looking at the seat as if it held a ghost. Then, carefully, he placed a folded wool blanket across the right side, smoothing it with both hands. Only after this small ritual did he lower himself onto the left side, keeping his gaze forward, toward the path. For minutes, long, golden minutes, he said nothing. But silence, I've come to learn, is often louder than speech. His breath was deep, steady, and every now and then he would reach out, gently touch the blanket, then let his hand fall away. Eventually, he spoke. Not loudly, but not whispering either. His voice was steady and low, like the sound of a cello echoing through an empty hall. I don't really know if you're here, but I thought you might be. Just one more time. He paused. The breeze stirred the elm leaves, and a single shadow from above fell across his lap. I don't come often. I didn't think I could. But it's been a year, and I thought maybe it was okay now. He rested his hand on the blanket again, fingers curling slightly. You always said this spot had the best light. I never saw it before. But now I do. It's warm here. Golden. Like you. I do not know who he spoke to. But I felt the shape of her presence in the air around him. I often do, when people speak to the unseen. He stayed for nearly an hour, talking quietly. He spoke of tea and shared gardens, of letters never sent, of songs she loved and books she never finished. He said her name once, but not loudly. And I held it, as I always do, gently, where no wind or rain could touch it. Before he left, he folded the blanket again, pressed his lips to it once, and tucked it under his arm. Thank you, he said, not to me, but maybe also to me. I've learned that benches, like time, become part of the conversation without ever speaking. Not long after, the shadows grew deeper, and a different kind of visitor arrived. She was a woman in her 20s, with bright shoes and headphones draped around her neck. She looked at me like she didn't quite trust benches, then slowly lowered herself down, arms folded, one knee bouncing. She didn't speak for some time, but she moved constantly, tapping fingers, shifting shoulders, adjusting her scarf. Restlessness sat beside her like an old friend. Eventually, she took off the headphones and laid them on the seat beside her. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. This is where she used to sit, she said. My mom. The words floated out into the golden light, light enough to drift. She used to bring me here every Saturday. I hated it. Said the park was boring. She'd just sit here and say nothing. I didn't get it. A bird chirped overhead. The breeze grew bolder, ruffling her hair slightly. She always said the bench was listening. She gave a soft laugh. I thought that was crazy. I still kind of do. She leaned back, resting both hands behind her on the slats of my seat. But here I am, talking to wood. There was no bitterness in her voice, just a kind of amused acceptance, as though she were finally stepping into someone else's shoes. I wish I could ask her why she loved this spot. Why she always looked so peaceful sitting here. I guess maybe I'm starting to understand. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small packet of wildflower seeds. She used to carry these everywhere. said we should plant beauty wherever we go. She opened the packet, took a small pinch of seeds, and scattered them at my base. Maybe they'll grow. Maybe not. Doesn't really matter, I guess. She stayed until the shadows grew long enough to touch the path on the other side. Then she stood, looked down at the seeds, and whispered, "I get it now." And just like that, she was gone. In the stillness that followed, I imagined the flowers blooming. Not all at once, not loudly, but slowly. Quietly. The way all important things grow. That afternoon, two shadows lingered longer than the sun. One of memory. One of discovery. Both left traces behind, though no one else might see them. I am made of wood and bolts, of iron and grain, but I carry more than weight. I carry moments. The way someone brushes a tear away without knowing they cried. The way a child stares at a patch of sky as if it holds secrets. The way two strangers might sit on either end of me and, without speaking, share something unspoken. As the sun finally dips behind the far hill, the world around me exhales. The last birds flutter to their evening branches. The air cools, smells shift. Someone lights a candle in a nearby window. I remain, as always. In shadow. In light. In silence. And I wait, for the next story to unfold in the golden hush of afternoon. Chapter 5, Evening Footsteps. Evening arrives not all at once, but in layers, like a soft blanket pulled gently over the day. The light fades slowly, folding into itself, and with it comes a hush that seems to settle into every corner of the park. The birds quiet their songs. The breeze loses its urgency. Everything begins to hold its breath. This is the time when footsteps sound clearest. Each step echoes slightly on the gravel path, sharp at first, then softened by dusk. The world, once so full of color, now begins to wear silver and deep blue. I know these footsteps well, the hesitant ones, the quick ones, the ones that return each evening as if pulled by something invisible. There was a woman, older than most, who came during this hour like clockwork. She always wore a thick shawl, even in summer, and carried a small satchel filled with crumbs. Her footsteps were slow but certain, and the pigeons knew her rhythm. They gathered before she arrived, waiting like old friends. She sat gently, without needing to look, always in the same place, my left side, near the armrest carved with the faint initials, AM. She never spoke to the birds, but her silence was kind. She would toss the crumbs in small handfuls, watching them flutter and squabble, a small smile playing on her lips. I remember one evening she stayed longer than usual. The pigeons had all flown off, and the park was nearly empty. The sun had dipped so low that the light came only in streaks. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small music box. With trembling fingers, she wound it. The melody was soft, something slow and waltz-like. It was out of tune, but not unpleasant. As it played, she closed her eyes and leaned back. This was our song, she whispered. No one was near, but I heard her. We used to dance in the kitchen. He would hum it while he stirred the tea. She opened her eyes then, but didn't cry. There was peace in her gaze, an evening calm that needed no words. When the music stopped, she sat in silence for a long time. Then she placed the music box on the seat beside her and stood. To whoever finds this, she said softly, I hope it plays for you, too. She walked away, her footsteps blending into the dimming light. The music box remained with me for weeks. Rain kissed it. Wind brushed against it. Eventually, a young man with paint-stained fingers found it. He wound it, listened, smiled. Then he placed it carefully into his backpack and walked away humming the tune. Some gifts are meant to continue. Evenings also brought the boy with the flashlight. He couldn't have been more than 10, but he always came alone, wearing a backpack too large for his frame. His flashlight flickered with age, casting golden circles along the path. He didn't sit right away. First, he would circle the park 3 times, as if on a mission. Then, satisfied, he'd plop down beside me, legs stretched forward, light resting in his lap. He called it his searchlight. Said he was looking for the hidden stories. I admired his certainty. One evening, he pointed the flashlight straight at my armrest and gasped. There, he said, a letter. It wasn't a letter, just a faint carving made long ago. But to him, it was a clue. He pulled out a notebook, sketched the shape, and began theorizing. He believed the park was built on top of a secret town. That the benches were landmarks, and I, his favorite, was the guardian of old whispers. I quite liked that. One night, as he packed his things, he turned and patted my seat gently. I'll be back with answers, he said. But he never returned. I imagine he grew up. Perhaps forgot. Perhaps found new mysteries to chase. But in quiet evenings, when the flashlight of the moon dances across the gravel, I still wait, hoping for his return, or someone like him. There's something about dusk that invites remembering. The way the light softens, the way the sky holds both day and night, it reminds people of things half remembered. Of people they loved. Of questions they never asked. Once, a woman came with a bouquet of yellow wildflowers. She didn't sit. She simply stood before me, looked down, and whispered, "This is where he proposed." Then she laid the bouquet on my seat, and left without another word. The petals stayed until the breeze scattered them into the grass. But the scent lingered longer. As the night deepens, the park changes. Lights blink on in the distance, windows glowing like quiet stars. Muffled conversations drift from nearby homes. A bicycle bell rings faintly. Somewhere, a dog barks once and is answered by silence. I remain. Even as the world tucks itself in, I stay, rooted, open, listening. Tonight, no one else may come. Or perhaps someone will. Maybe someone who's lost. Maybe someone who's found something. Maybe someone who simply needs to sit. Whoever they are, however long they stay, even just a breath, I will hold them gently. For in these footsteps, these fading shadows, these quiet gifts left behind, I find my purpose. And I never forget. Chapter 6, The Night Watcher. When the world quiets into night, I am most awake. Not in the way people mean, no stirring, no stretching, but aware, present, grounded in the hush that wraps around everything like a velvet cloak. The park belongs to others during the day. But at night, it becomes mine. The sky deepens into ink, punctuated by stars that blink slowly like distant thoughts. The moon casts its light across the gravel in long, lazy lines, and the trees whisper stories only I can hear. Night brings fewer visitors, but the ones who do come stay longer. There was an old man who arrived only after the last dog walker had gone home. He wore 2 coats, both frayed at the sleeves, and his beard had grown wild with time. He never sat fully. Just leaned against my backrest, letting his weight rest without truly settling. He hummed. Always the same melody, low, tuneless, more rhythm than song. He talked to himself, too, but not the way some do to fill silence. His words were soft, measured. He recited poems. Some were well known, others, I think, were his own. I used to sit here with her, he told the wind once. We'd count the stars until we forgot how. Sometimes he brought bread in a paper bag. Not to eat, but to crumble for the raccoons. He said they had gentler eyes than most people. One night, he brought a small lantern. He placed it on my seat and lit it. The flame flickered, casting his face in amber and shadow. He didn't say much that night. Just stared into the light until it guttered out. He didn't return after that. But the lantern stayed, rusting softly at my side. Eventually, the gardener removed it. Still, when the moonlight hits my frame just right, I can almost see the glow again. Some nights, I am visited by silence alone. No footsteps. No voices. Just the stars, and the breeze, and the distant hoot of an owl who never tires of asking his single question. But then there are nights like one I remember well, a girl in a long coat, too thin for the season, walking with no urgency, yet no hesitation. She carried nothing but a sketchbook. Her hair was wet with dew. She sat without brushing away the leaves. She didn't shiver. She didn't speak. For an hour, she sketched. She looked not at me, but at the world around me, the trees, the shadows, the lamplight bending through branches. And when she finished, she tore the page from her book, folded it twice, and placed it between the slats of my seat. She pressed her palm to the spot as if sealing it with something sacred, then rose and walked away. The paper remained for days. Rain tried to blur it. The wind tried to steal it. But it clung tightly. Finally, one morning, a boy on a scooter found it. He opened it. Smiled. Took it home. I never saw what was drawn. But I like to believe it was a picture of everything she saw, not as it was, but as it felt. Nights invite truths. People say things to the stars they would never dare say to the sun. Confessions. Regrets. Hopes. I've heard them all. A woman once sat cross-legged beside me and whispered her dreams into a jar, real dreams, the ones that visit in the quietest hours. She sealed the lid, kissed it, and buried it beneath my feet. In case I ever forget, she said. I keep it safe. Another night, a man shouted into the dark. Words sharp and fast. Then he cried until the anger softened into silence. He stayed until morning. When he left, he looked different, not fixed, but lighter. As if something heavy had finally been set down. I have watched clouds cross the moon like drifting thoughts. I have seen shooting stars caught in the reflections of still puddles. I have listened to foxes bark short, secret sounds as they pass. And always, I wait. For the next visitor. For the next story. Tonight, the sky is clear. The air holds the hush of old stories not yet told. Crickets sing a slow song. The lamplight flickers once, then steadies. I hear footsteps. They're soft. Careful. Coming closer. A young man, wrapped in a wool scarf, appears beneath the elm. He looks at me with hesitation, then sits slowly, placing something wrapped in cloth beside him. I don't know why I came here, he says aloud. I do. He breathes in deeply, exhales slowly. It just felt right. He unwraps the cloth. Inside, a small book. A journal. The kind with pages that drink ink like memory. I used to write letters here, he says, his voice trembling slightly. To someone who'll never read them. He opens the journal, flips through, stops at a page, and reads silently. Then, gently, he closes the book, rests it on the seat, and says, I think this is a good place for it to stay. He stands. Looks at the sky. Then at me. Thank you, he whispers. And then he's gone. The journal remains, heavy with words and pages that hum quietly with feeling. I will keep it safe. I always do. The moon reaches its peak. The stars blink. The world breathes in. And I, the watcher of night, the bearer of echoes, the silent companion of 1,000 stories, I remain. I am more than a bench. I am memory. I am quiet witness. I am the place where people leave their unseen, unspoken, and unforgettable. And I am always here. Waiting. Listening.